DeLuca here. I have been gone for a hot minute. I know I went AWOL. I have been, hi Bigsby, been dealing with some stuff here. Been playing a lot of gigs, but I am going to be getting back into the swing of things. So let's get started today. I'm going to be doing a moving straight pour, but I'm going to be using a regular cup. Typically I use a measuring cup with a spout, and that gives me a very specific outcome. But when you use a regular cup, you get more of the fingerlings, and that's kind of what I want to go for today. So let's play around with that. The colors I'm working with here, I have Liquitex Basics in Dioxazine Purple, mixed with some Artist Loft white. I have, you can tell I'm out of practice because I don't have my paints all lined up here. I have this green is a mixture of the Decoart Americana Decor Satin Enamels in pure white. I opened up a new jar, so this should work well. As these jars sit, when you first open these jars, there's like a liquid, kind of an oily looking substance on the top, and you have to like mix that into the paint. And after it sits for a while, or as you get towards the bottom, if you're not seeing that oily substance anymore, it's not that the paint's not good, but you might not get the same cell reactions. So I can still reuse those whites, and I might get some cells, but I know I will get cells with a fresh jar for sure. This green is the Phthalo Green from Liquitex Basics, mixed with this Satin Enamels. So it's 50-50. It's half Basics, half Satin Enamel. And then I add the Floetrol to that. This blue is Phthalo Blue, again mixed with the Satin Enamels. And this color, this is the Decoart Americana Decor Metallics in sterling silver with a touch of copper added to it. It kind of makes a rose gold type color. It's a very pretty color. So I kind of felt like the copper wasn't giving me enough contrast that I wanted, but the silver was kind of too stark. So I just kind of blended the two together. The consistency that we're working with is about a 2 on my consistency scale. It does make a mound, but it disappears pretty quickly. So these paints are mixed 1 part paint to 2 parts Floetrol. And then I thin that with my concoction of 90% water and 10% Floetrol. You can use just water. I find that that Floetrol water mix kind of helps to keep from over thinning, because sometimes just a couple of drops can be too much. I just find it to be helpful, but it's not necessary to get these results. Before we get started, have you seen the Fluid Art Inspiration cards? If you have, you can fast forward about a minute, but if you have not, what we have are 52 cards. There are 42 technique cards, and each technique card has an associated video here on YouTube that gives you all of the information that you need. The exact paint brands, colors, consistency, the recipe, and of course the technique, all of the things that I can't fit onto a card. This is the picture of the painting in that video. This box contains a tip for this particular technique. And at the bottom, we have the color palette that was used in this painting. And then these 2 boxes can be used together as the basis of a 2-color palette, or you could build off of those colors. And there are 8 bonus color palette cards. Each one has 5 color palettes. You can use all of the colors or just some of the colors, mix and match the bonus color palette cards with the technique cards, and you have more combinations than you could ever paint in a lifetime. These are available at my website, ginadeluca.net, and also at amazon.com. Okay, the first thing I'm going to do is put some paint in my pouring cup. I'm going to do about 2 ounces-ish. And so you'll notice that I've already covered my sides on my canvas. This mix is pretty thin, and I'm using Floetrol. And so what can happen is you might not get the best coverage on the sides. It'll get kind of thin on the sides and the canvas will show through a bit. So this way, my sides are covered. It's the same color as my background paint. So if I don't get great coverage on the sides, it's not even going to matter. Doing this is much easier than trying to match colors, trying to touch up the sides later. Like this is a custom blended color. If I were to try to match this later on, it's a challenge. So I lay down a base coat so that my paints slide around more evenly. If you pour onto a dry canvas, something has to stick to the canvas first. And so what that's going to be is the paint that is at the edge of your poured puddle. And then the paint that is in the center of that puddle is going to roll over the edges. And sometimes some of the coolest stuff, cat scrap. Sometimes the coolest stuff happens on the edges. Okay, just going to give this a quick torch. Pop any bubbles in the base coat. This is another reason that I use a color for my base coat that is in my pour. If there are tiny bubbles in the base coat and they pop after you pour, if I used a white base coat and there's no white in my painting, I'm going to end up with little tiny white cells that are going to drive me crazy. So, I like to troubleshoot before there's trouble. All right, now I'm going to put some paint in a cup. Always check your consistency before pouring. The sauce may thicken upon standing. I'm going to start with the green. I'm going to pour from up high, allowing that to sink and churn and do its thing. Okay, now for the blue. I'm hoping to get some nice blending between that blue and that green in the cells. We'll see. Might have needed a bigger cup here. That is a very full cup. And I do have a bit of this purple left, so I'm just gonna go over top so all of those paints have something to react with. Okay. We are definitely gonna make a mess here. This is a lot of paint. One more quick torch. I see some more bubbles. Okay. Well, so far I like the color combination I'm seeing. Let's see what happens. Kind of force a little fingerling action here. I'm really hoping that that metallic, I don't lose all of that. I hope I get to keep some of that. I'm just gonna even this out a bit. Okay, but I am gonna let this sit for a bit. Popping bubbles. So popping bubbles is going to bring paint up with it, and these Decoart paints have a hydrophobic effect, meaning it'll push the other paint away. So these satin enamels dry matte, and the basics have a glossier finish than the satin enamels. So a matte paint is going to push a glossy paint away when you mix it thin enough to engage that effect. It just has to be fluid enough for the fluid dynamics to take effect. Okay, so I got some really cool stuff happening here, and these cells are going to be really pretty. So I think we're going to have a winner here. And if I allow these cells to develop, let this paint puddle percolate, then these cells that pop up before I stretch will just get bigger after I stretch them. And that's what gives that cool Boulder cell effect, because when you stretch it, it enhances this like 3D effect that happens when you use multiple. You'll notice I'm not really torching down here. I don't want cells popping up down here. I kind of like this kind of, there's a glow happening there, and I don't want anything popping up through it if I don't have to. But yeah, so if you use multiple colors in the Decoart line, they will kind of attach together when you put them in the cup the way that I did, when they kind of blend together. And then once they make a cell, sometimes you can get a whole rainbow in a cell. It's super cool. Okay. I think that's enough to work with. So now I'm going to figure out what direction am I going to tilt this first. I think there's a lot of weight right here, so I'm going to start there. And I'm going to use the weight of my paint to push this composition around. The weight of your paint, the easiest way to tell is where it's moving the fastest. That is the heaviest part. And then I'm gonna bring it back to center as much as I can. Not this center, but like this center. The weight of it. And then I'm going to push this other corner. And I find that doing it that way really helps me to keep the shape of my cells. All right, so again, bringing the weight of the paint back to the center, and then very slowly gonna head to the other end. Satchmo's trying to be naughty. And when you're stretching on this shape of canvas, it's going to be difficult to keep perfect shape of round cells. But I find that you can kind of create a bit of motion and like this organicness. I'm just going to give a little bit more juice here just so it slides off a little easier. It can thicken up while it's sitting, so sometimes giving a little swipe of extra paint can help it slide off a little better. Okay, so I still need to bring it back a little bit. There we go. You can get pretty specific about what you're tilting off if you are mindful of where the weight of your paint is. Okay, now I'm going to recenter the weight of the paint. Okay, well, there it is. So I suspect that more cells will be developing. That is just the nature. I see some of the metallic popping up in these cells here. So maybe we'll get some more metallics popping up through there. There's some nice glowing going on down here with the metallic laying over top of these cells. And up here. Okay, so I'm gonna let this sit and do what it's gonna do, and I will bring you in for a close-up back in a few. Okay, here it is. This is completely dry. You can see where the metallics are showing up from the right angle. Once it's varnished, this will all pop. So one thing to note, in order to get these Boulder cells, you have to use a matte paint with a paint that's not as matte. So the paint that's not as matte is the background color. So that would be, you know, this purple here. And there's so many cells, it's hard to tell, but if it's from the right angle, you can see that that background color, the purple, is glossier than the cells. That was how I discovered this to begin with. I used a paint that was more matte than the other paints. And when it dried, I noticed that the cells looked matte. And so that kind of really helped me figure out what paints to use. And that was the basis for the straight pour. But there it is. So those satin enamels are matte. And so when you add them to any paint, it creates that mattifying effect. It gives it that hydrophobic effect, and it pushes the other paints away and gives you these groovy cells. So there it is. I hope you learned something. I hope you enjoyed. Please do like, share, and subscribe and all that good stuff. Do check out the description box below for links to my PayPal tip jar if you feel so inclined. Our Facebook group, Go Make Some Art. Join us there. Post your masterpieces. Ask your questions. Get some inspiration. You will find the links to my affiliate links and coupon codes. Deco Art being one of them. You can get your paints at a discount, and I will get a commission at no additional cost to you if you use the links provided. If you were already subscribed, please make sure you have clicked that bell so you're receiving all of the notifications when I do put up new uploads. And I think I covered everything. Is that everything? I think that's everything. Oh, the Fluid Art Inspiration cards. You can get those, again, at GinaDeLuca.net and Amazon.com. Okay. That is it for me for today. I hope y'all have a beautiful day. Now go make some art.